All right. Yes, and just to let everybody know, again, you're being recorded because if you missed the class, we do send it out to everybody who missed the class. All right, and here comes Erwin, great. And Letty, just once again, introduce yourself to these fine, upstanding individuals so they could learn a little bit about yourself.
Okay, you guys can hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm Leticia Carrasana, and I'm what they call a Cuban, which is a Cuban Jew. Oh, it's funny, but no. I am a member of the Temple Torah Emet, and my partner is Heidi Schaefer. And I've been in conversion now going on about a year and a half, converting into Judea, and I was brought up a Catholic. But my family goes back in history. My mother's side of the family is Sephardic Jew, and my father's side is Ashkenazi. There you are.
Can I share a
Welcome to
story?
the
Can I
tribe.
share a story with you? Take just a few seconds.
Yeah.
One of my golf buddies is also Cuban. He married a Jewish lady and he converted. And at age 75, he was bar mitzvah.
Oh,
And he said to me before the bar mitzvah, I am more nervous now than I was to do the defense of my PhD dissertation.
I agree with him completely.
All right, great. We're all back together. As everybody knows, these are interactive discussions, and I think tonight's going to be a real lively one. All right, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur is coming up. We're not going to do anything about that. But I thought since we spend a lot of time in retrospective in ourselves, trying to figure out who we are and how we're going to get better, et cetera, and be involved in all the services, I thought it'd be interesting to examine who we really are. And what does that mean? What is the state of the Jewish people in the United States entering into 5782? And for my source material, there is an organization called the Pew Research Center. And they periodically, they've done this, they did it 10 years ago. They are a non-denominational organization that does research as basically a nonprofit, oddly enough. And they go ahead and interviewed 66,000 Jewish people around the country. And they had their preliminary reports in 2020, and they updated them in 2021. And it covers a lot of different things about the state of Judaism in America. So let's dig into it, figure it out, and see if it's in good shape or bad shape, whether we want to something we can do about it or can't, and see whether or not it's surprising. All right, so let's begin. So if we take a look at all the Jews, from what they looked at, they came up with what's known as an executive summary. And here is the final words as to who we are. U.S. Jews are culturally engaged, increasingly diverse, politically polarized, and worried about anti-Semitism. That's us in a nutshell. Culturally engaged, increasingly diverse, politically polarized, and worried about anti-Semitism. What's your reaction to this executive summary? Go ahead, Ruth.
I think they're right on. I think they're right on. We are culturally involved, much more so than religiously, as far as the main group of people who call themselves Jews. I think we are increasingly politically polarized, as is everybody, all other groups in the country. It's not just the Jews at this point that are politically polarized. And I think we are all concerned about the rise of anti-Semitism, and we've all seen it and we've all experienced it in our lives.
By the way, the FBI just came out with a report for 2020 anti-Semitism. It's down.
I'm sorry?
It's down.
Down?
It's down?
It's down.
Yes. Yeah. They
That's
just
because
released a
people are
report.
chasing
They
Asians
need to
and-
check their numbers.
Oh,
Right.
Sorry.
it's down. Steve, you had your hand up.
Part of the survey had to do with not political, but Jews being active in organized religious activity, and that was interesting, and maybe one of the reasons we see so many synagogues closing, because Jews are not joining synagogues the way they used to. There's a lot of merging. The Orthodox seem to be either maintaining
Increasing.
or growing.
Mhm.
The conservative movement has taken a terrible hit in terms of membership and synagogues, and we can see that right here in our own backyard, because there aren't many people are joining, new people joining conservative shuls.
Correct. And as a matter of fact, I'm
Right.
glad you pointed that out, because if we look at the executive summary, that's what's missing.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. You want to expand on that, Mo?
I was just gonna say that they forgot all about religion and trying to find out who a Jew was.
Yeah, exactly right. It does not say anything about spirituality. It does not say anything about tradition. It says
Cool.
culturally engaged. Okay, so let's take a look at that. What does it mean to be culturally engaged?
That was
What's
my
the
question.
number one thing?
Israel.
Okay, someone else?
Reading
No,
books.
The holidays, the fact
the
that we
holidays.
celebrate the holidays.
some
Holidays are spiritual. They're not cultural.
cultural.
Culture is
Holidays
culture.
are spiritual.
Food,
Food. What kind of
No,
food?
they're
Jewish
cultural
food.
too.
Jewish food,
All right, what's Jewish food?
gefilte fish,
Yeah.
rocks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ruth. Thank you. We have a religion built on gefilte fish. Jews are
Right.
gefilte fish
She's
engaged.
absolutely right. She's right.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ruth. But you're not right. But thank you for that.
Okay,
Thank you. But yes, this is a wonderful thing. We're going to stand in front of of God, whether we believe in God or not, on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, and said, "Yes, God, I had lots of gefilte fish this year. I am worthy of another year of life." All right. What else? Go ahead, Ruth.
I think you said the holidays, and you said that's religious. Well, I think about it more cultural, because I think you will find that a huge number of Jewish people celebrate what they call a Passover Seder, or light candles at Hanukkah, without being very religiously involved in synagogue life or community affairs in that way. But somehow they want to have a Seder for Passover with their family. It's a family-oriented holiday, which I don't think they relate to spirituality so much as culturally.
I
So
agree.
I go ahead, Erwin. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I agree.
Yeah.
A lot from personal experience.
Almost. Why do they have the Passover Seder? Is it because the Torah said, let's have a cultural event for family, or let's recall our exodus from Egypt in a spiritual ceremony recognized by a Seder? When you get right down to it, it is a spiritual service. There is Hebrew, there is English, there are prayers, excuse me. And once you get involved with a prayer, blessed art thou, O Lord our God, King, whatever, then all of a sudden you move from the cultural aspect into spirituality. Go ahead, Steve.
But I've actually been to certain seders given by Jews or hosted by Jews that had no religiosity at all.
Mm.
I don't think there was even a Haggadah there. They had the Seder plate. They said this is to commemorate the Jews' march to freedom, and let's eat. And it was a communal dinner with Jewish people and maybe a few non-Jews thrown in, but it was not in any way a religious ceremony. Maybe it was prompted by a religious ceremony, but not itself religious.
So let me answer this question, Steve. Did they have matzah?
Yes.
That makes it
Yes.
spiritual.
Okay. But if you told them it was a religious ceremony, they would say, we can't do this anymore. We're not doing it. That's it. Get rid of the matzah. We're having a dinner. Put the matzah back in the kitchen. We're done.
No, I understand that, but the fact that they had matzah, okay, and matzah is not considered a Jewish cultural food, because most people don't eat matzah outside of the Passover holiday. And if it's eaten on a holiday decreed by the Torah, it can be classified as spirituality. Okay, but let's go
I
on with
agree.
the. Go
You
ahead.
know,
I agree. I agree with you. But certain people have taken religion,
Yeah.
Religious things, and made them into cultural icons, and that happens to be one of them.
So that one might cross borders. Your example could cross borders, and it's few and far between. Alan, go ahead. I thought you want to say something.
you know, I just think there is an enormous pull to be with your family or your friends at Passover. Can I share a story? Take a minute or two.
Yeah, let's go because I got a lot to cover. But go
Okay.
ahead.
When I was a senior in college, I went to the University of Buffalo. We were not home for Passover that year. Spring break did not coincide. And we're sitting around the student union between classes, and someone said, let's have a Seder.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to tell you that I think 20 people showed up that night. We had a rented house. And I think we did a fairly good job till somebody said, let's drink to that. But the point is the pull of being with Jewish people on that holiday. I think that's the most important thing. And I've
Yes.
even seen that here in the retirement communities.
Yes, but yet it has its foundations. I do want to move on. I don't want to I don't want to get bogged down in one area.
Yeah, please.
So what the report says is the way people identified themselves as cultural Jews. You're going to laugh at this one. If they ate potato latkes on Hanukkah, the number one Jewish food that gave them the opportunity to say, yes, don't worry, world, I am culturally engaged because I have potato latkes on Hanukkah. I don't make this stuff up. I'm not being editorialized. I'm just taking it off the pages, okay? The second thing that they talked about, which is really, this one I found surprising, they say they watch Israeli movies. Somebody said something about Israel. They watch Israeli movies, which I found really interesting, and that therefore they're Jewish. And they read some Jewish books by Jewish authors, but not necessarily halakha. So here we stand on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur as proud cultural Jews. What do you think?
Well,
I like to think of myself as more than just a cultural Jew.
Yes. Yeah.
I belong to the synagogue. I attend services regularly. I
Mhm.
derive a great deal of spiritual satisfaction from going, and it's part of who I am.
So,
Part of my makeup. It's
good,
more than
Erwin,
just
good.
cultural.
I'm afraid I feel you're in the minority, especially conservative Judaism.
Yes. So let's see what the results were. What does it mean to be Jewish in America? A new Pew Research study finds that many Jewish Americans participate at least occasionally, both in some traditional religious practices, like going to synagogue or fasting on Yom Kippur, and some cultural activities like making potato latkes, watching Israeli movies, or reading Jewish news online. That's us. Go to shul, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, have your potato latkes, go see an Israeli movie,
And you're
and
a
we
Jew.
call ourselves Jewish. Letty, I don't
Wow.
want to talk you out of anything that you're doing, but this is us. This is us. This is how we examine ourselves. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. Let's move on. Overall, a quarter of U.S. Jews, 27% of Jews, do not identify with the Jewish religion at all.
Yep.
They don't identify whatsoever. Let's talk about age groups. Here's where it gets interesting. And at
What
the
was that
same
number?
point, I'm
What
sorry,
was that number? What was the number?
27%.
10%.
Thank you.
27%. All right, let's go to buy something else. This one really gets scary. Watch this. Anybody here over 65?
No.
I think so.
Okay. All right. For those of us that are over 65, we represent 84%. 84% of us identify ourselves by Jews by religion. Meaning what? We're involved with some sort of spirituality, and the cultural engagement of the potato latkes, the Israeli movies, the gefilte fish is secondary in our lives. 16% of us do not even consider ourselves Jews by religion, which is cultural, or I was born into it and I had no choice. What number do you think currently the 18 to 29-year-olds? What percentage of 18 to 29-year-olds consider that they are not Jews by religion?
Say that again, not?
Not Jews, Jews of no religion. Jewish people
Probably a
between
high.
18 and 29. What number do you think?
Enormous.
50%.
percentage.
50%.
Exclude, are you excluding the Orthodox?
No, they're all included. This is
Oh.
all included.
50%.
30%.
At least 50%.
Close. 40%
Okay.
of 18 to 29-year-olds. Now, watch this. Regrettably, you and I are going to be a distant memory in the future. In the future, it's fact of life. So that wipes out 84%. By the time the 18 to 29-year-olds become our age, they're going to look at Judaism with a lack of religion. And what do you think is going to happen to their kids and their grandkids?
Have no knowledge of Judaism.
Yeah, less and less with no knowledge of Judaism.
Everybody will be going to Chabad.
Thank you for saying that, Mo. Because what is happening according to the Pew Research, and this defies logic, Chabad is getting more people to come to their full-length services than anyone else.
Yes.
Than anyone else. It's counterintuitive. The Orthodox are drawing more young people into the Orthodox fold than Reform and Conservative.
Wow.
That is counterintuitive. Why is it counterintuitive? We Jews complain, services are too long, laws are too hard, I don't understand the Hebrew, and there's another list that I'll get into a little bit later. So we went around, but somehow Chabad and Orthodox say, wait a minute, let's get back to fundamental original Judaism, and we're going to attract people because people don't like shortcuts. Mo?
I was just gonna say, they don't deviate.
That's right.
Whatever they were taught, that's their marching orders.
Yeah. And somehow they're attracting people. Lots of people.
Yeah,
May I say something?
Of course.
Because Chabad doesn't judge whether you're Reformed, Orthodox, or Conservative. They
Mhm.
just want you in as participating.
So that allows me to talk about increasingly diversity. And we've talked about this over the years, but the numbers are now out. Okay. They went ahead and interviewed Orthodox, Reform, Conservative, the whole nine yards. And we know this is a fact now, it's proven statistically. 85% of Orthodox people do not look at Reform Jews as Jews.
Correct.
And they do not identify with them as Jewish people. Okay, but you can't shift the blame on the Orthodox. Approximately the same number of Reform do not identify with the Orthodox. Isn't that wonderful when we show up for services on Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, as one nation singing out Shema Yisrael? Stuff. I'm only going to spend 30 seconds on politics. The Orthodox are Republicans. Not saying they're right or wrong.
Yes.
And the Democrats are Reform and Conservative.
Correct.
Not saying they're right or wrong. Don't want to spend a lot of time on politics, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so that's just for information. All right. According to the numbers, there are 7.5 million Jews in America. Okay, of which 5.8 million are adults, 1.8 million are children. Okay.
Under 18, Andy?
Yes, thank you. Under 18. What do you think of those numbers? It reveals something to me very interesting. What do you think of those numbers? 5.8 million adults, 1.8 million children.
2 to 1. I mean,
You know, Andy, I think the question is more was, what is the birth rate?
That's exactly what I'm looking for, Alan. Exactly right. Where is the birth rate?
Orthodox only.
Yeah, that's right. Conservative and
Reform.
and reform. Listen, I'm guilty. I'm guilty. I'm conservative. I only had 1 kid. I'm part of the problem. Okay, I didn't have 3 or 4 or 5 kids. I'm part of the
Six,
problem. I only
seven,
had
eight.
1. Huh?
6, 7, 8.
Yeah, 6, 7, 8. As a matter of fact, the Chabad rabbi I know in Omaha had 14 kids.
Oh, Kanahara.
And the only reason he stopped because the doctor told his wife her body can't handle it anymore.
Andy, I have a client who's an Orthodox Jew. She is a real estate agent, moved down from New York. She does not have enough time in her hands. And she says she has about 1,000 Orthodox families that want to move into Boca and Boynton. And she went to a developer and told him, we need bigger houses and we need ones with 2 kitchens. And she starts telling the developer, and the developer
Interesting.
says, I can't give you that. There's
Yeah.
too much demand right now. But she's got
Wow.
1,000 families with
Wow,
over
that's-
6 kids minimum in each of those. And they want to
That's it.
move to this area.
That's interesting. Wow. Wow. Thanks for sharing that, Letty. Thanks for sharing that.
There are 2 developments in Boynton Beach that have catered to families like that and have built homes
Yeah,
with 2 kitchens.
yeah. But now, right now, the demand is so great that
Right.
they can't keep up with it.
Yep.
It's amazing.
So thank you for that, Letty. We need more kids because not only are the 18 to 29-year-olds leaving the religion, we're not even replenishing those as the numbers get smaller. But you know what? Being Jewish has a lot of benefits that we all forget. So here's what the survey indicated. American Jews on average are older. We've talked in the past that we tend to live longer than most people, believe it or not. We have higher levels of education. We earn higher incomes, and we are more geographically concentrated in the Northeast than Americans overall. Wow, it's not bad being Jewish. Yeah, sometimes people will come after us. It's not bad. We live longer. We have higher education. We make more money. We're more concentrated. Hey, I don't know about you, but I'd love to be born into a religion like that. What do you think? Let's talk about anti-Semitism. 3/4 say that there is more anti-Semitism in the United States than there was 5 years ago, which is true. And just over half of 53% say that as a Jewish person in the United States, they feel less safe than they did 5 years ago. Regrettably, 5% of all US Jews report that they have stayed away from a Jewish event or observance as a result.
Fortunate but true, I believe.
Yep.
Yep. That's something.
Okay. Andy, really quick. So I have
Yeah.
a client and his wife comes in. His wife is wearing a Star of David, and I have mine. I don't take it off. So we're done with our business. I'm walking them out the door, and he says to me, let me ask you a question. But he says it very low. And he says, do you wear that everywhere? I said, what, my Star of David? He says, yeah. And I said, yeah, except for I'm traveling outside the country, I'm not going to wear any jewelry. But here, yeah. And then his wife turns and says, I told you. And then he says, I tell her not to wear her star. And then she says, in tears in her eyes, she says, he doesn't understand it. I wasn't born in this country, and my family suffered too much, and I'm not going to hide from anybody about the fact that I'm a Jew. So I said to him my story. I said, listen, I come from a communist country. My family comes from a communist country. And on top of that, after finding out my ancestry, we've been persecuted forever. And I will not, if I left the country, communism, and they told me what to do and what to say and whatever, how can I not be who I am here? This is a free country. And if they're going to come on at me, and then they're going to have a big fight on their hands. But
Right.
This was just 2 months ago or so at my office in
Wow.
Boca,
Wow.
and that's a reality. That's a reality.
Thanks for sharing that. Welcome, Carolyn.
Thank you. Sorry, completely got involved in something, completely forgot about it.
That's all right. You're here. All right. Conservative and Reform Jews tend to be less religiously observant in traditional ways. We know that, like keeping kosher and regularly attending religious services. No big secret there. 7 in 10 U.S. Jews say that remembering the Holocaust and leading a moral and ethical life are essential to their Jewish identity. Let's talk about that. Why is it so important to American Jews to live a moral and ethical life? Why is it so important?
Certainly the Torah
I was gonna say,
gives us that roadmap.
Okay.
Perhaps people who are not spiritual still feel somewhat attached to that roadmap.
But there's a bit of a quandary there, Alan, and that is if they don't study the Torah, how do they know the roadmap?
From the last generation who knew the roadmap.
Okay, all right, Ruth.
The only thing is, there are plenty of people who feel they want to live a very moral and ethical life, doing good to the human race and for their fellow man, having nothing to do with any kind of religiosity or religious attendance or identification as a Jewish person. They just believe in doing good and being a good person.
All right, good. All right. Yeah, but they got to have, as Alan said, they have to have their basis from somewhere. But wait, there's more. About half or more. Did you want to say something? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that most Jewish families are always telling their children that they should grow up because they need to have a good name and a good reputation.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Now, let's continue. So that's the number one thing. The Holocaust is number one. Moral and ethical life is number two. About half or more saying that working for justice and equality in society, 59% consider that being Jewish. Here comes a real good one, I think. 60% of everybody surveyed said that being intellectually curious is part of a Jewish identity. That surprised me. What do you think about that? Intellectually curious is important in Judaism. How do you react to that? Carolyn?
I think it's true.
Okay. All right. Why?
I mean, in Hebrew school, you learn to be curious. You're encouraged to ask questions.
yeah, but
Those who go to a yeshiva certainly are encouraged to ask questions. I think, I mean, I know I was brought up in a house that people, they wanted you to learn, not just accept things.
Good. Ruth?
My son has a very interesting Haggadah that we use, and there's little vignettes and stories along the way. And there's one little thing that I always remember. It's a story about a guy said, most Jewish mothers, when their children come home from school, ask, what did you learn today? My mother used to ask me, what questions did you ask today? I thought that was a great.
That's great. That's
what
great.
questions did you ask today?
Yes, excellent. And the way I love that one. And the one I always use is in secular school, they teach you how to answer questions. In Jewish school, they teach you how to ask questions. Okay, but yours is that I never heard that one before. I like that one.
That was good.
Oh, that's cool. That one's cool. Thank you for that one. All right, there's more. Now to Alan's point, but it's half. Half of the people said continuing family traditions are essential. Now, there's a caveat to that, Alan, which says if 51% said that family traditions are important, that says 49% didn't. And that's a pretty high number.
Wow.
You would think, based on what we just talked about earlier, that family and Hanukkah and Passover and everybody's sitting down and schmoozing and blah, blah, blah. When one relative sits across the other and can't stand their guts anyway, sitting there, which is true. Yeah, you're all laughing, you know it's true. You know, I wish he wasn't here, but I'm going back to New York, wherever he came from. It's enough with him. Anyway. It's true. When you laugh, it's true.
You made me sit the whole Seder with him.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, whatever. All right.
Lucky it's every year, the other 13 months or so they forget.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I can see it now. You get an invitation to a family thing. So who's going to be there? Right. Then you get the list. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I can't make it. I feel so bad. All right, let's go on. So Alan, to your point, 49% of the people, this family thing isn't important. Now, far fewer consider eating traditional foods. Only 20% consider eating traditional foods as part of their Judaism, which is odd. But I got to get back on that bandwagon. Do you have to be Jewish to eat bagels?
No,
Do you have to be Jewish to eat lox?
no.
No. You have to be Jewish to eat any of the Jewish foods, with the exception of gefilte fish. No.
For sure.
Okay. So I very seldom editorialize, and when I do, I make sure it's important. Okay. This whole thing of I eat Jewish foods is nuts because everybody else eats them too, except for the gefilte fish. Let's move on.
Andy,
Yeah.
I think that in America, food is part of the melting pot. I think that our foods have been accepted. I think we love Chinese food. We love Japanese food. I think that's all part of the melting pot.
Yeah. Okay. So you gave me an opening I've never used. Okay. So let me ask you this question. If I go out to a Chinese restaurant and I eat Chinese, can I say I'm culturally Chinese?
No, you could say you're culturally Jewish.
Or French food or whatever. All right. And only 15% of all the Jews surveyed considered observing Jewish law to be essential elements of what being Jewish means to them. What do you think about that?
Would you repeat that, Andy?
Sure. Only 15% of the 68,000 people that were surveyed consider observing Jewish law to be essential elements of what it means to be Jewish.
All coming from the Orthodox.
You got it, Erwin. The Orthodox make up nearly 10% of all the Jews. All right. Let's move on, and then I'm gonna we'll get back to it, but this is important. Here we go. Let's take a look at how we compare as Jews to the non-Jews in the United States, which I think is a very fair comparison. Okay, here we go. 21% of the 68,000 Jews that were surveyed, and remember, 10% of those were Orthodox, only 21% say religion is important to them. What percentage of American non-Jews do you think religion is important to them?
60.
Lower,
Not much more than the 21%.
not much.
Nearly twice as much.
Really?
41%.
Okay.
Twice
Well,
as.
but
Right, Letty?
okay, but we're talking about everybody else, right?
Yeah.
So how are they? So I would love to see the computation, because we're comparing to one religion,
Mhm.
multiple religions, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
my thought process is, all right, so this is one religion, having a conversation about, and they're taking up the numbers, but we're dealing with multiple religions. We're talking Muslim, we're talking Catholic, we're talking Christian, right?
Yep.
So to me, those numbers just don't add up.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying.
In other words, apple for apple, like,
Right.
if you're going to compare the Jewish religion, let's compare the Jewish religion with the Muslim, or the Jewish religion and the Catholics. Because
Right.
then we'd have real numbers, no?
Yeah, but what they did was they compared all of them combined, measured against the Jews,
I don't know. I'd say
and they
that
got away with it. So somehow they found it statistically correct because nobody challenged it. Yeah. No, it's true. All right, I'm going to make it even worse.
Uh,
These are the numbers. I'm obligated to share them. Here we go. What percentage of Jews today believe in the God of the Torah?
18%.
wow.
30%.
No,
I would go with 30.
oh, maybe.
All right, close enough. 26%. 26%. Remember, of that 26%, most of those are Orthodox, okay? 26% believe in the God of the Bible. When they poll, and you can question this, Letty, but I got to release what's here. What percentage of all religions combined believe in God of the Bible? And remember that our Torah is also part of the New Testament, and it's also part of the Quran. So that makes it somewhat fair. Okay, somewhat. What percentage of non-Jews believe in the God of the Bible?
60.
Close enough.
Yeah.
56%. 56%. Nearly 2.5 times more. So, what does this have to do with anything? Well, it's time for a quick story. It's Rosh Hashanah Eve. It's Yom Kippur evening. Kol Nidre. Some of you have heard this, and well, I'll do it again anyway. It's one of my favorite stories. It's you remember it, Carolyn? So the rabbi's greeting everybody that's coming in. He's waiting outside the door. Mr. Cohen comes in, and the rabbi says, "Mr. Cohen, welcome. How are you? Haven't seen you in a year. You're looking good." Blah blah blah. And he says, "Mr. Cohen, can I ask you a question?" He says, "Sure. Here's my ticket. I got one." He says, "No, that's not my question. My question is, do you believe in God?" And Mr. Cohen says, "Yes." Rabbi lets him in. Mr. Levine comes by. They go through the same conversation. Rabbi says, "Can I ask you a question?" Levine says, "Yes." Rabbi says, "You believe in God?" Proudly. Levine says, "No." Rabbi says, "What are you doing here?"
Just in case.
Mr. Levine said, "Just in case."
Yeah.
So this is who we are in 5781 in the Jews.
Oh.
I'm gonna
Huh?
Oh, he did the survey last year, right?
No, this is also updated this year too. So yeah. All right. Most Jews who attend synagogue regularly say they find it spiritually meaningful to go. That's interesting. Once they step foot into the building, they like it. Have you ever, and we've all been to services, right? Have you ever left a service where you're not in a good mood? There's one exception, when the rabbi's sermon was too long. But that aside, have you ever left a service where you're not in a good mood? Do you know what happens when couples are together and the service is finished? I don't care if they're married 51 years or 1 year. There's a PDA that goes on. What's that PDA? Public display of affection. If you want to see seniors kiss in public, go to a service. Because after services, the affection comes in. All during the week, you think they're handhold? No. All during the week, you think they kiss? Probably not. I don't want to get that image in my head. They don't. But on the other hand, right after services, they do, which is really interesting. All right. So why do people go to services? Anybody want to start me up? Why do people go to services in the first place?
To be more spiritual, to be more. I think Ruth actually said it the best earlier today.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what was that you said, Ruth, and then Steve?
No,
Why do
I
people-
find it spiritually uplifting to be
Yeah.
there, and
Yep.
it fulfills something in me that is very important.
Mhm.
Right.
Excellent. And Steve, you had your hand up?
Yeah, to be with their friends.
Me too.
To socialize.
He's not that far off. Yeah, he's not that far off.
Absolutely.
9 in 10 regular attendees say there's a reason they go to services. And number 1 is because they find it spiritually meaningful, which is good. Number 2, a sense of belonging.
There you go.
I am with my people. I am with my friends. I walk into the building and I feel welcomed, with one exception. What's the difference between going to a church and going to a synagogue?
Not
Here
sure.
you go.
Take your hat off.
You
You
can't
don't
take-
talk in church.
That's true.
All right, adding to that, okay? When you go to a church and there's a seat, you sit down. When you go to synagogue and there's a seat and you sit down, it won't take 10, 15 minutes for somebody to come in who's late, go to that seat and say, what? You're sitting in my seat,
That's right. Yeah.
even though there's no name on it. All right. It's true. All right.
It's true.
Here's a reason, which is very interesting, to feel connected to my ancestry or history. They feel a religious obligation, which is what the Orthodox say. And fewer Jewish congregants say, this is interesting, fewer Jewish congregants say they go to religious services to please a spouse or family member. But yet the number is high.
Oh, please,
42% of those surveyed, I consider that a high number. 42% of those surveyed who go to synagogue say, I'm going there to please my spouse or a family member. To me, there's a little bit of a secret in there on how to get more people to come to shul. Okay?
Guilt,
And then, go ahead, Steve.
guilt them.
You got it right. You got it. Guilt him. Listen, my son, my grandson, I went to synagogue. There was an empty seat next to me. You know what I was thinking that would be great? Who would fill that empty seat that was sitting next to me? You.
Wife.
Huh?
Wife?
Yeah, the wife or you or whoever you talk to. It would be nice because I got to tell you, I love sharing things with you. And I'd love you to share that feeling of spirituality, belonging, and historical background that a service represents. Hey, why don't you give it a try? Come with me, give it a shot. It's a little bit of guilt. Or when you come home, say, geez, you don't know what you missed. It was fantastic. The rabbi's sermon was out of this world and blah, blah, blah. All right. So to me, there it is. Okay, now, what's the reason why people do not go to services?
Long.
Too long.
Too long. Okay, Mo, you trying to say something or we lose you there?
My battery went a little short.
Okay, too long does not even appear in their answers.
I think they feel that they just don't
I
get
don't
anything
understand.
from it. It just doesn't do anything for them, doesn't move them, doesn't give them any kind of feeling of spirituality, and they just feel it's wasting their time. They
Okay.
have no connection to it.
All right, close. Okay,
I have, maybe they don't feel comfortable. They're not, it depends on where they go with shul. And
Mhm.
maybe they go to the shul, the wrong shul, and then when they get there, people are not welcoming.
number one answer, I'm not
I understand.
religious.
Oh,
Oh,
Okay, next answer, I'm not interested.
Started this.
Number 3, I express my Jewishness in other ways. Parenthetically, it's not written here, I'm adding this. Parenthetically, I eat potato latkes every Shabbos. Okay.
2 minutes.
Fewer say, I don't know enough to participate. I feel pressured to do more and give more. That's 11%. Even though that's a low number, if you have 7.8 million Jews, that represents 700,000 lost members. And this one I'm going to focus on because I think this one is absolutely true. The moment you join a synagogue and somebody meets you and greets you, how are you? Nice to see you here. Where you from? What's your background? Blah, blah, blah. What do they all of a sudden start to say?
Shabbat shalom.
In addition to that,
They gotta get involved.
you gotta get involved. Hey, we need volunteers. We need this. Have you thought of sisterhood? Have you thought of this? We got a fundraiser coming up. We need somebody to lead bingo. You look like the right person to do it. You know how you're treated? Like a fresh piece of meat.
That's not unique to us.
No, it's not.
I think it's more unique to us. First of all, I don't have the experience for other synagogues, so I can't say that. But go ahead,
No,
Letty.
I'm not even talking about synagogues.
Right,
I
it's really,
think in any community
yeah,
where volunteers are necessary, there is always that outreach.
Yeah, but you know what I think the difference is here is? You probably paid $1,400 for the benefit of being a member, and then you finally get into the place, and all of a sudden, what do they want?
More money.
Money.
Or
that happens in the Catholic Church too.
okay. Anyway,
Yeah.
that one I feel like, okay. I don't feel welcome. I fear for my security. People treat me like I really don't belong. So
Yeah.
are any of the, go ahead, Letty, go ahead.
Fear for their security?
In
Oh.
terms of synagogues and attacks,
Right.
etc. So is there any one of these that we can attack? Again, I'm not religious. Okay. And that's true because 75% of the Jews today, by the way, it used to be 65% of the Jews don't believe in God. Now it's 75. So 75% of the Jews have no reason to go to shul because they don't believe in God to begin with.
Mhm.
Okay. I got that. So, but the other parts, I think we can actually, we can actually work on. All right. Before I go on, other inputs on this,
The what?
other inputs, ideas. Nope.
Hmm.
All right.
Did,
Go ahead, Mo.
did it say when they took the poll? Did they get the denomination of the Jew they were talking to?
Yes.
Jewish
Yes.
person?
Yes. Thank you for that. 9% of the people that participated were Orthodox, which falls into the number of approximately
Mhm.
Orthodox thing. The balance were Reform and Conservative. 19% were Conservative, and the balance were Reform.
Okay.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that earlier, and thank you for keying me on that. All right, how do people feel? How do us Jews feel about Israel?
Supportive.
Okay, go ahead, Ruth.
The older we are, the more connected we feel.
Correct.
The younger children, the youngest feel no connection whatsoever. They don't have anywhere near the same kind of feeling that we do. And I think it's born of our experience living through the Holocaust period, living through the birth of Israel, and how important it was to our people. And our children and our grandchildren never experienced that, and they can't relate to it.
You're
I
absolutely
disagree.
correct. I'm
You
sorry,
gotta
what was
get
that
them
now?
to Go on birthright.
Yeah,
Right.
they go on birthright. So here's something that'll scare you. As you guys know, among the many grades that I teach 7th grade. And in 7th grade, I also teach 3 different topics per Avot, Midot, and Israel. And the question I always ask my 7th graders in the beginning of the class is the following. If you woke up tomorrow morning and you found out that Israel was obliterated and wiped off the map, how would you feel? What do you think the answers are?
Well, I have to tell you, Andy, I was there when you asked that question. And I was actually having breakfast and I almost choked on my breakfast when I heard one of the kids say what they said.
Mhm.
Like he wouldn't care. And Barron just looked at me like, I couldn't understand it.
Yep.
I could not. It has nothing to do with me. It was like, what?
And he was more to the extreme than the others, but very few expressed concern.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, that changed, but very few expressed concern. That's scary.
I was
Come from the home.
Go ahead, Steve.
Unfortunately, the media has created a situation where Israel is being judged more politically than a religious place or a cultural place for the Jews to call home. And a lot of these kids analyze Israel just like every other country. And because the perception is that Israel isn't a perfect country in their mind, which of course many older Jews would fight to the death not to defend Israel no matter what the country or the government did, these kids don't have that investment.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, that has created a situation where they're very free to march against Israel, to join groups that support the BDS movement, because they don't have the connection of Israel as a cultural and religious home for the Jews and look at it just in a political light.
Right. Right. Thank you for that. Thank you. I want to get to a number of Jews that belong to synagogues. That's important before we forget. But what do you think about this Israel? I got to find the page. What do you think about this Israeli thing? Can that be turned around in addition to birthright? Because not everybody can go to on birthright. What do you think?
Would you repeat the question, Andy? I'm sorry.
Sure. What can we do to get the younger kids more involved in Israel?
Besides birthright,
I think birthright is
it is besides birthright.
the number one thing. And now
Okay.
how to get them to go. It's interesting if you, I've gotten some of their literature, and many times the kids are pigeonholed, dragged there by one ear, but what comes out is much different.
Right, correct.
Maybe have other kids that have already gone to that process, share their stories in some way, because it's peer to peer. They connect in that form, and maybe they can get the message across that way, because you can be a parent, and say until you're blue in the face, but if it's a peer that they'll listen to, they'll have that experience, and then they'll be wanting to go, and they'll want to be more proud. I don't know.
So here's one of the answers. What percentage of Jews today in America do you think have visited Israel?
50%.
15%.
60.
30.
45%.
Oh, okay.
Only 45%.
45%.
Only 45%. That's not a high number. It's not only involved with the kids, it's involved with the parents. If the parents don't go to Israel and they don't see what you see in Israel, because nearly anybody that's gone to Israel has come back with a different opinion. If they don't go, how can we expect the kids to get involved, aside from birthright? Okay. One of my travel plans next year, again, is to go to Israel for the 7th time. Do I need to be there again?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. I got Jews living over there. Okay. I want to be with those Jews. So 45%, believe it or not. All right. Just to go over a few other things. 12% of Jews say they have participated in activities with Chabad. Excuse me. And that has certainly gone up. Excuse me, it's great to be Jewish. Watch this. 1 in 4 American Jews, 25%, say they have family incomes of $200,000 or more.
Yeah.
Nice.
What percent?
23%.
1 in 4.
24, 23, just to round it down.
It's
Only
interesting.
4% of the United States population claims to make $200,000 a year.
The number I read was 8.9% have a household income in excess of $200,000. I don't remember where I read that, but I did some research for something.
Okay, and this one says 4%. So let it be somewhere in the middle. But we're
Okay.
23%. Wow, it's amazing. Half of U.S. Jews describe their financial situation as living comfortably, compared with only 29% of all U.S. adults. There are 15% of Jewish adults that say they have difficulty paying for medical bills, etc., etc. All right, couple more things, and that is membership in synagogues. Yeah, what percentage of American Jews do you think are members of a synagogue?
Say
25%.
15.
15%.
Maybe 30, maybe 30.
I don't know how you,
It's 20%.
Ooh.
20%.
of that percentage, how many are Orthodox?
Yeah, and exactly right. And most of them are Orthodox. Yep, they're up there in the 80s. Okay.
The affiliation rate here in Palm Beach County is 13%.
Oh,
Yes, that is
Yeah.
correct. That is correct, and that is absolutely correct. Oh, I forgot something really important, and I'm sorry to tell you this. One of the traits of being Jewish, you'll love this one. This one will make you laugh. I missed this one, but I got it. I'm going to tell you what it is. What is one additional trait that people identify as a trait for being Jewish? Having a good sense of humor. If you have a good sense of humor, you're Jewish. How about that? So in a rather, huh? Go ahead.
Is that based on most of the comedians being Jewish?
No. This is 68,000 people that were surveyed and asked, what's important to being Jewish? And that's a good sense of humor. To your point, back in the 70s, 76% of all stand-up comics were Jewish. Now, this is where you have a culture change, okay? What kind of jokes were they telling?
Jewish jokes.
Jewish jokes. Jewish jokes. If a non-Jewish person today, as a comedian, would get up and talk and make a Jewish joke, what would happen to that person?
ADL. The ADL.
Politically
Get
incorrect.
the ADL.
Right,
The
correct.
ADL. Get them on the phone.
That's right. And that's what we did. Isn't that phenomenal? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right. So I know this is not one of these uplifting things that we talked about during our classes, but yet I think if you agree and if you disagree, tell me. With Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, where we examine ourselves, and we do that as individuals and as a group, I did feel it's somewhat important to relay the information from this Pew report to so when we're there on Shul, we know who we are. So what do you think? Give me some of your impressions as we go around. And go ahead, Steve.
The problem is the people that are reflecting and looking at this critically are the people that are sitting in synagogue.
Right.
We have committed ourselves for one reason or another to be in shul, and that's a place where I would never feel comfortable not being, not only on the high holidays but also during the year as well. I'm a shul person. Most of the people that I know are not shul people. In fact, I'm living, in my mom's house in a community that is 90% Jewish, and most of the people have no affiliation with the synagogue, and it's sort of weird to me. You'd think that they would want to communicate with a synagogue or be with a synagogue. The only thing that draws them to the synagogue on Yom Kippur is Yizkor. If they said Yizkor every day in shul, you'd have a packed house. A new 365 Yizkor program, and you got to show up, or else the mourning of your dead relative is going out the window. You got to show up for this 365 Yizkor. but people will crawl to synagogue to say Yisker and never step foot in a shul any other time during the year. Any. And that's sort of strange. So it's tugging at someone's heartstrings to do that, but we got to find another tug to get people into shul because the synagogues need it to survive.
You bet.
I think that's an interesting discussion because it didn't come up obviously in the questions when we talked about cultural things, about what percentage of these people who never come to shul at any other time, even Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, come for Yisker, sometimes even as many as four times a year. There's some kind of a draw for that. And I'm sure it's a much higher percentage than of the people who come to shul on a regular basis, much higher percentage. But it wasn't asked in the survey.
There is what I call the Jewish paradox. And I see it here in Florida. 13% of the people here are affiliated. And yet when the Jewish Cultural Club has an activity here in the over 55 community, I live in Bellagio, 200 people turn up. It's just incredible.
Well, yeah, Al, but we have the Jewish Heritage Club here too. We live across the street from each other. We have 600 members. We have a Jewish cultural event. This is always funny. We have a Jewish cultural event and 350, 400 people show up. And what is a Jewish cultural event? A singer, a comedian, or whatever who's not Jewish.
Okay.
And the president of our association always goes to the singer and says, you got to do one Yiddish song. You got to do something Jewish. So I can claim it's Jewish and whatever it is. And guess what song they usually pick? Anyone take a guess?
My Yiddish Mama.
My Yiddish Mama or something from Fiddler on the Roof.
Fiddler on the Roof, right. Yeah.
Okay. So, but. So I'm on the board of my Jewish Heritage Club, and I actually did something about that. Okay. I got my charter changed, the bylaws, to throw in that we are an educational in addition to heritage. Because what's heritage? It's educational. Took me a while to get it in there, but I got it in there. And for those that know me, I don't give up. I got it in there. The moment I got it in there, guess what we formed? The Jewish Educational Committee. And we send out information about holidays, about Judaism, at least 12, 15 times a year. And guess what? We're getting notices back. Thank you for sending it out. We find it interesting. And 3 times a year, we have a speaker come in and present topics on Judaism. Now, here was the funny thing. Strictly Judaism. No singer, none of this malarkey. A real Jewish discussion. And when we, as a committee that I chaired, said, how do we measure success? We get 25 people. This is marvelous. It's crazy, wonderful. First time, 125 people came, and we had a scamper for chairs. And every time we do it, more people show up. Steve?
Well, our synagogue ran an adult cultural educational program with Dr. Stephen Burke. And everyone said, that's, who's going to show up? We couldn't find enough chairs to fit in the ballroom for that. And people paid to come to that. And every session was a sellout. And there were rave reviews. Now, if you'd asked those people to turn around and walk into the sanctuary to say Myriv, you would have had there would have been rushing and people trampled at the door. So it depends upon the programming. And I think that we need, as a synagogue, all synagogues need to touch that cultural vein in people, that Jewish cultural vein, to bring people at least in the building, because we also had several people sign up to be synagogue members from that event. So it could be a trickle, but at least it's drops that are filling up the pool, not draining the pool.
That's a start. I think it's another one. And Al, you kind of talked about it a little bit, and that is, what's one of the best ways to sell a product? Word of mouth.
Yeah.
One of the best ways, right? So if we get something out of going to services, why do we have to keep it quiet? Word of mouth. I had a great time. It's a great rabbi. It's a great cantor. It's a great service. It's a great this. It's a great that. And you like food? Man, the egg salad after services is to die for. The chopped liver and the sponge cake. You can't get sponge cake like that anyplace. It's fantastic. So you got to bring him in by food. What the heck? You guys in Temple Torah Emet, you got one of the nicest displays. In my synagogue, we're cheaper than, I don't even want to use the word. If you want tuna fish, you get a little teeny weeny little handout. It's terrible. Now, we do get 400 people for a Shabbos morning service, or at least we did pre-COVID. But we didn't eat the food. Maybe that's why. But anyway, it's crazy. Other reactions. Carolyn, haven't heard much from you this evening. What do you think of all this stuff?
Shut this time.
Huh?
I'm keeping my mouth shut this time.
You know, I run an adult education program.
Mhm.
I've done it now for 10 or 11
Yep.
years. And you have to have a mix in that program.
Mhm.
Obviously, we're going to talk about Talmud, we're going to talk about Torah and Pirkei Avot, all of those things. But you got to mix something else in and to draw people in.
Yeah.
We have a wonderful, wonderful psychologist who's a member of one of the temples who gives us time. You got to have things like that in the program.
Yeah. So thank you, Al. So in everything that we presented, did anything surprise you?
No.
Did anything upset you?
No.
I have read articles about this Pew report, so it's not new. It's not all new to me, and I'm
Yeah.
not surprised at any of the things that come up because I've read about it and heard about it. But it does. I'd say it surprises me, but it pains me the direction when you talk about how fewer and fewer of our children and grandchildren will be maintaining the same sense of connection that we have. And I'm just sad that that's the way that we are going.
Yeah.
That's
So here's
Not
the
just-
problem.
reaction to it.
It's not just us, Ruth.
I'm sorry?
Almost everybody.
Not just us.
Religion is
No.
I can only feel for me and my own.
So here's another number, 41%. Yeah. 41%. This will shock you. 41% of all, here we go again, Letty, of all non-Jewish people attend a worship service at least once a week. 13% of Jews attend a service at least once a week.
Okay.
So when we say it's all people, yeah, I'm not quite sure. Letty, go ahead.
No, I completely, I understand that, but again, they're mixing us all up in one pot, meaning that they're taking all the religions, so let's separate them individually, and let's really see, okay, how many of the Christians are going and compare them to the 13% that they're talking about us. You can't, they're melting us all in one pot. It's not, I prefer, okay, Jews, Catholics, Christians, born again, everything else, a Jehovah's Witness,
Okay, I'll help you out. I'll help you out in that thing, and we'll conclude this one. There was a survey done many years ago. Okay, watch this, and they ranked just what you want to have happen. Okay, you can look this up. I'm not making this up. And they ranked by religion, the percentage of people who attend services once a week. Okay, by religion.
Okay.
In that list, the Jew was second to the bottom. Yes. Care to guess who was on the bottom?
Catholics?
Atheists.
Oh.
Atheists. Oh, man.
Stop it.
True, I don't make it up. Atheists. So the study that you want is already been done. All right, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur is coming up. We did our self-examination. I hope you agree with me that it was important. Carolyn, are you glad you came into class? I know you didn't say anything, but I got to draw something out of you.
No, one of the reasons I didn't say anything is really because I've been involved in several synagogues. And I know a lot of people who have stepped back from being members. Part of it is because of the politics that have gone on. And part of it is that people who were active, something happened in the family, and they never heard anything from the synagogue, even though the synagogues were notified.
Yeah, it happens.
Okay. And unfortunately, it happened to me and it happened to a couple of my friends. And we've all stepped back from synagogues because of it.
Interesting. All right. All right. So I don't want anybody to get off the press, but these are the numbers. I can't change that. So are you okay with the fact that we did this evening?
It's good.
Yeah, we've done it before.
No, not the Pew report. No. I've never done this before.
With the reports?
Yeah, because it just came out this year. Yeah, the Pew
No, not
report.
this year. We've done it in the past.
No, because the last report was 10 years ago. And we didn't have class 10 years ago.
Maybe it was another report. It was
might-
similar.
All right.
Reports, whatever.
Mo, are you okay with the fact that we covered this evening?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
All right. Ruth?
Yes, it's important for us to be aware of it. For each of us to wonder if there's anything any of us can do about it individually.
Yep. And that's exactly the reason for it being presented. All right. Thank you for staying with me an extra 14 minutes. The next class, we're going to get back to, go ahead, Alan.
2 weeks
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I got to look it up. I don't have it in front of me, but you
up on the wall somewhere.
yeah. The next class, and this is going to be an expansion, and I'll give you a little bit of a clue. When you go to Rosh Hashanah services in the first 2 days, you'll notice something very interesting. The important role of women in the Rosh Hashanah service.
Yes. Sarah.
And the extremely important role of women in the Rosh Hashanah service. Ruth, you look you're surprised. So when we meet,
I'm chuckling because I happen to have a very important role in the first day of Rosh Hashanah service. So I'm something which a woman would never have done in the past, and I'm really excited about it.
great. Even in the Orthodox movement, that notion still holds true. So the next time I will reveal what I'm talking about and other things that you never knew existed in the roles of men and women in the Jewish religion. So with that being said, Shana Tova. Have
Shana
a
Tova.
great,
Donna
magnificent
Toiva.
Good New Year,
holiday.
everybody.
May we all be written in the book of life, of happiness and health and prosperity, which apparently seems to be a Jewish trait also.
Donna
According to the
Toiva.
Pew survey.
Thank
now.
you.
You bet.
Donna Toiva.
Bye-bye.
Donna Toiva.
All right. Carolyn, you okay with tonight? You were really like quiet there.
Huh?
Are you okay
No,
with tonight?
because I have I basically said at the end what my problem is
Yeah.
with synagogues.
Okay. All right. And you know you're right, because I know people.
What synagogues? So I'm keeping my mouth shut.
No, but you, so you know what? I'm gonna hold on a minute. I'm gonna stop the recording.